A huge factor, though, for the Boston Celtics is the status of Kristaps Porzingis. And with that, we say hello to our ESPN senior insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, when can we expect to see Porzingis this postseason?
Malika, obviously, Porzingis is out tonight in Game 1. I'm told that he is also going to miss Game 2 in Boston.
Right.
But when this series returns to Indiana, I'm told that Porzingis could return as soon as Game 4 on Monday. Now, the Celtics are certainly not going to rush him. Game 4 on Monday would be about a month from when he went out April 30th against the Heat, missed the entire Cleveland series with that right calf injury. But he is progressing, and there is momentum that he will return in this series, and it could be as soon as Game 4 Monday in Indiana.
Okay, so that could be good news if you want to look glass half full, that at some point in the series she's going to be back, eyeing that Game 4. Woj, thank you so very much. This is huge, though, right, when you're talking about the Indiana Pacers, because they are a team that thrives in the paint. And who is one of the best paint defenders in the NBA? Oh, yeah, it's Kristaps Porzingis. So, Stephen A., how important is it that they get a healthy Kristaps back this series?
Well, without him, they ain't winning. They win the championship. They'll get to the finals. I think they'll get to the finals. I think that Indiana will give them a very competitive series, but Boston will win the series. You are not beating Minnesota or Dallas in the NBA Finals without Kristaps Porzingis. He's 7'3". He's a three-point shooter, but primarily he's a shot blocker that allows you to depending too much on Al Horford, who's approaching, I think, 38 years of age.
Yes.
You've got to monitor that. Listen, Tatum, Brown, Holiday, White, etc. We get all of that. But if you can exploit the interior of Boston because you've got some size and some athleticism and you've got a guy that's a shot blocker that's not in there, like a Kristaps Porzingis, I think that drastically affects Boston's chances. They need him to win the chip.
I think saying it, I'm going to say the same thing. He's the difference between a championship and a second-place finish is what he is. And you don't like to put that on one guy, and we talk about the effect of the whole team, but he makes them a championship team. I think without him, they're not. And no team in the history of the league, and you're the historian, has a team ever won a championship with a key player missing? I don't think so, unless you can remember.
Well.
It never happens.
By halftime.
Think about it.
Go back. That's a great.
It never happens.
Well, Magic in a game played center for Kareem, but not
yeah,
in the series.
one game.
Not in the series.
Not in the series.
Yeah, he missed
Game
one
6.
game, right? So he missed one game.
Game 6.
So I'm talking about being out for a playoff series. It's in the finals. The teams are too good. Whether it's Dallas or Minnesota, they're too good.
As an executive, let me cut you off just to ask you this. The gamble with getting Porzingis in the first place, we talked about this back in the preseason, was this. Missing time. What did he play with the Wizards a couple of years ago? Like 36 games? So the calculus on this with Porzingis was going to be as impactful as he is. And Stephen A., I agree with you, particularly against Minnesota. Yeah. They've got to have Porzingis if they wind up running against
You're
them.
already anointing Minnesota.
No, watch the
But I'm looking at Gafford and Lowry.
Gafford and Lowry
doesn't matter.
But this is part of the calculus, is it not?
It is part of the calculus, but you got Tatum healthy, Brown healthy, White, Holiday. You can take a risk. He might be the risk on the roster. You don't want three guys that could get hurt.
But this also isn't their first game playing without him.
No.
Just know that. So they already know how to play without him.
Right, so let's dive in maybe a little bit more to the Celtics' defensive strategy, particularly on Tyrese Halliburton, right, without Kristaps Porzingis here, because this could decide the series. What are you looking at there, Chris?
Right, so with Porzingis, right, there's a lot of length, right, when he comes out on the ball screens and all of this. But it's going to be interesting to see with Al. They're going to be switching. Their defense will be a little bit different.
He led the league, Halliburton, in points per possession.
Right, so in this play right here, you look at Al Horford. He's orchestrating the defense, talking. If you watch Boston, they're always communicating. They play with their hands on you, and they're directing everything. Al Horford, what he may lack in athleticism, he makes up for in awareness. He's talking. Right here, he comes up on the ball screen. He's talking. They're switching, directing everywhere, every player on the court. So now he comes out, he contests, they get the rebound, and this is why Boston has played the same way all season. They have played with the same intensity night in and night out. This season, when we played them with the Warriors, it was one of our hardest games because they played with the intensity like they were trying to play for a championship.
Forgive me for asking for this education.
You don't have to forgive.
And I need to be educated. I understand, appreciate the astute basketball analysis. But damn it, last time I checked, Drew Holiday, he's supposed to be an elite defender.
Oh, he is?
Derek White, he's supposed to be an elite defender. Those are two backcourt individuals. And this dude, Halliburton, is basically just a ride. He's a baby in the NBA. I'm just saying, I understand what Boston is bringing. I understand what Indiana is bringing to the table. I understand everything you just dissected about Al Horford and the rest of their team collectively. We've seen the energy and intensity they play with throughout the season and being a second-ranked defense. But I'm looking for Jrue Holiday and Derek White. Wait a minute now.
Yeah.
Halliburton can't do what he did in Game 6 and 7.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Well, I saw what Lou Dort was doing on Doncic.
Yep.
He was not getting screened.
Right.
Holiday's pretty good at that. So the question is, as a player, when you're playing that point of attack position, how hard is it to not get that switch and stay on Halliburton?
It's tough, but Jrue is one of the best in the league at it. Right? He competes every possession. He knows when to get over the screen, when to get under the screen. Derek White, right? He's been a defender. All these guys are more than capable, but as you're going to see in the game, they're going to keep screening, keep screening, keep trying to create mismatches so that both teams can play at that pace. But Jrue is tough.
But when he talks about the switcher, think about Boston here. Jrue Holiday, 6'5", about 6'5". Derek White, about 6'5", 6'6". Jaylen Brown, about 6'7". Jason Tatum, about 6'8". So I'm like, no matter what kind of switching you try to induce, Boston has the athletes that can match up with practically anybody, which is why their defense was so elite this year. Am I right?
Yeah, but you'll see Al Horford sometimes will probably be up at the point of the screen, right?
Okay.
Drew them a fight over. And what you do is sometimes you'll call late red, right? So that's late switch. So if a guy feels like he can't get back in front, he just calls the red and they switch. But the guards and all these guys in Boston, they're so strong, right? So mismatches are not a problem. JT can guard in the post, Jalen, Derek White, all these guys. So it's going to come down to who wants it more.
I'm on fire. It's 88 over here.